Okra is one of those vegetables that instantly divides people. Some swear by it, while others avoid it at all costs, usually because of its slippery texture. But whether you love it or hate it, okra is far more interesting than it first appears. It has a long global history, a surprising botanical identity, and a purpose that goes well beyond gumbo or stir-fries. So today, we're answering a simple but surprisingly complex question. What exactly is okra? From its origins in plant biology to why it becomes slimy when cooked, okra has a story that stretches across continents and centuries. And by the end of this video, you might look at this humble green pod very differently. Let's get into it. At first glance, okra looks like just another green vegetable, but botanically speaking, it's actually a fruit. More specifically, okra is a seed pod that develops after the okra plant flowers. Those seeds inside the pod are the reason okra exists, to help the plant reproduce. Okra belongs to the mallow family, known scientifically as Malvaceae. This is the same plant family that includes hibiscus, cotton, and cacao, the plant that gives us chocolate. That connection might sound surprising, but if you've ever seen an okra flower, it starts to make sense. Okra flowers are large, pale yellow, and hibiscus-like with a dark center. Once the flower drops, the pod grows in its place. So when we eat okra, we're not eating leaves or stems. We're eating an immature fruit, harvested early before it becomes too tough and woody. Okra's story begins in Africa, specifically in the region that includes modern-day Ethiopia and Sudan. It has been cultivated for thousands of years, long before written history recorded its use. From there, okra spread across North Africa, the Middle East, and South Asia through trade routes and migration. By the time it reached the Indian subcontinent, okra had already become a staple crop. In India, it's known as bhindi, and it's used in countless dishes, often cooked dry with spices to minimize slime. Arab traders later introduced okra to Europe and the Americas. In the United States, okra became deeply tied to Southern cuisine, largely through the forced migration of enslaved Africans. Dishes like gumbo, whose name is believed to come from an African word for okra, show how deeply rooted the vegetable is in cultural history. So okra isn't just food. It's a living reminder of migration, survival, and adaptation. Let's address the most famous and infamous thing about okra: its slime. That slippery texture comes from mucilage, a natural substance found inside the okra pod. Mucilage is a mix of soluble fibers and polysaccharides that dissolve in water when heated. When okra is sliced and cooked, this mucilage leaks out, creating the thick gel-like consistency many people recognize. But here's the important part. That slime isn't a flaw. It actually serves a purpose. In dishes like gumbo, okra's mucilage acts as a natural thickener, giving the stew its signature body and richness. Before modern thickeners existed, okra did the job naturally. Interestingly, how you cook okra determines how slimy it becomes. High heat, dry cooking methods like roasting or frying reduce slime, while slow simmering increases it. So whether okra feels slippery or crisp is less about the vegetable itself and more about technique. Culinarily, okra is treated like a vegetable. We sauté it, fry it, stew it, and serve it alongside meats and grains. But scientifically, okra is a fruit because it develops from a flower and contains seeds. This puts okra in the same category as tomatoes, peppers, and eggplants. Foods we think of as vegetables, but are technically fruits. The confusion comes from how we use foods in cooking, rather than how they grow. Understanding this distinction doesn't change how okra tastes, but it does help explain why it behaves the way it does when cooked, especially its moisture and texture. On its own, okra has a very mild flavor. It's often described as grassy, green, or slightly earthy. Some people compare it to green beans or asparagus, but softer and less fibrous. Because its flavor is subtle, okra absorbs spices and seasonings extremely well. This is why it works across so many cuisines, from spicy Indian curries to smoky southern stews and tomato-based Mediterranean dishes. The texture more than the flavor is what defines okra. When cooked properly, it can be tender and pleasant. When overcooked, it can turn mushy. Like many vegetables, timing matters. Okra may not look impressive, but nutritionally, it pulls its weight. It's low in calories and high in dietary fiber, particularly soluble fiber, which helps with digestion and blood sugar regulation. Okra is also a good source of vitamin C, which supports immune health, vitamin K, important for blood clotting and bone strength, folate, essential for cell growth and pregnancy health, and antioxidants, including flavonoids and polyphenols. The mucilage that makes okra slimy is actually beneficial for gut health. It slows digestion, helps feed beneficial gut bacteria, and may help stabilize blood sugar levels. In other words, the very thing people complain about is also one of okra's biggest strengths. So, what exactly is okra? It's a fruit masquerading as a vegetable, a thickener disguised as a side dish, a plant with African roots and global influence. It's slimy by design, nutritious by nature, and misunderstood by reputation. Thank you for watching.